put it in Twitter yet. Hello, folks. How you doing? Welcome to the Atlantic City Expressway, exit 33, near the lovely town of Winslow, known for its
It's our first mobile webcast here.
Right, it is a real mobile webcast. Hotels of ill repute in Winslow, but besides that, it's a nice town. Yeah, so we're gonna move along, but we're driving. I'm not driving, fortunately. My lovely wife is to my left. You can't see her, but say hi.
Hi.
There you go. And children are behind. Hey, Ty.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much. We're in the Atlantic City Expressway. The plan was to get to the shore before this, but of course that didn't work out. And there was lots of traffic for the 4th of July weekend heading down there, so been a nice 7.5-hour trip, something like that, right? Yeah. All right. So.
That sounds like my trip to Toronto next week, because the Pan Am Games are coming to Toronto starting next week, which just happens to coincide with the first day of Leafs rookie camp.
Oh, man.
Typical.
Yeah, I know. We have the rookie camp. The Flyers rookie camp starts this week. I'm going to head over to that to see a lot of future defensemen who probably aren't ready yet to play in the NHL, but you know, watch the Flyers defense say 5 years from now. So anyway, so it's as if we are just going to do a regular show. Kevin should be joining us as well. We got lots to talk about, so let's get going. What's today's date? I know today's date. It's July 3rd.
It is Friday, July the 3rd.
I'm an idiot. Yeah, of course it's July 3rd, Friday. Tomorrow's the birth date of our fine land of ours.
And so today is the 152nd anniversary of the 3rd day of Gettysburg, also known for Pickett's Charge, but no Confederate flags here today, folks.
Yeah, thanks. I know. Have you been following that?
Yes. Yeah. That's why I mentioned it, because all of a sudden now they want to change the names of parks and army bases that have Confederate generals, and I think the political correctness is just sort of running amok right now. But you know, let's talk hockey.
Yeah, we should talk hockey. Because Mike, you know, is the Hockey Buzz Republican, which is fine. But Ty and I live in cities where Republicans are tarred and feathered, so it's all right, Mike.
It's true.
Boston, Philly, you can't get close.
So do I. Buffalo isn't exactly a conservative bastion, so okay.
It's true. But you know, we like to give you all sides of things here at the Hockey Buzzcast on the road today. All right, so let's begin. Ready?
Yep.
Hello, Hockey World. It's Friday. It's not Friday. It is Friday. Man. Thanks, love. All right, here we go. Take 2. Hello, Hockey World. It's Friday, July 3rd, 2015.
I'm Michael Agello.
And I'm Ty Anderson.
And I am Eklund, and you're watching the Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that we bring you every Monday through Friday around 1 o'clock-ish or so, 1:30, 2, 2:33, 4, 5, somewhere in there. And we keep you up to date on what's going on in the hockey world, so you don't have to. We usually don't do it from the road like this in a moving vehicle, but you know, it's fine. So if you're just joining, I am on my way to Atlantic City, actually Margate with my family, to spend the 4th of July with a giant elephant. And so that's the elephant in the room, so to speak. But yeah, let's talk hockey. So it happened. TJ Oshie got traded for almost nothing. I mean,
I wouldn't say Troy Brouwer is almost nothing. Plus the goaltender that they got, Copley, is considered a pretty decent prospect. So I don't think it's nothing. But Oshie's got 2 years left in his contract, over $4 million. I believe Brouwer's only under contract for 1 more year at half that amount. So this was a cap savings, and Ty Brouwer, I think, is a guy who would fit into a third-line role, provides St. Louis some grit that they have been missing a little bit. I don't think it's a bad deal for both teams.
No, and I think that Troy Brouwer is a perfect Ken Hitchcock player, really. I think that's what this comes back down to for the Blues is, they need to clear some space for Tarasenko. That's going to happen at some point. So moving Oshie for Brouwer, it seems like a loss for the Blues right now. But Brouwer, I think, is sort of a sneaky power play presence that you can have on your second unit there. And And he can fill in the top 6. He's not going to really light the world on fire in that role, but he can chime in with some goals and some points there. So I just look at this trade from the point of view of the Blues, and it makes sense. They did have to sort of sell low on Oshie in terms of his money, just because we know Tarasenko is going to get a massive deal.
Yeah.
So they were never really dealing from a position of strength here. But I think that Brouwer and Phoenix Copley and the 3rd round pick, I mean, that's not the worst return at the end of the day. But I look at this trade and I think Brouwer is a perfect player for Ken Hitchcock, really.
So they were actually, I mean, it seems to me that they basically it was an old Western standoff. Like, it was Ken Hitchcock or T.J. Oshie, and one had to go. And that's what it feels like.
Well,
at the end of the day, they went with Ken Hitchcock, who they only gave a 1-year contract to. So they're not overwhelmingly happy with him. I mean, I know T.J. Oshie has had a very subpar performance in the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's been so I was talking to a St. Louis fan last night, and he's basically, he goes from being, roughly, point and a half player at certain times to like a 0.25 player in the playoffs. It's completely, it falls off the map, right? So that is an issue. But at the same time, and I know that we have the 3-on-3 overtimes now, right? So there's not going to be as many shootouts. But, T.J. Oshie is a shootout specialist. He is going to get you a couple points per year. It's going to matter more to Washington than it would St. Louis. I will say that.
Well, I think Doug Armstrong recognizes the fact that, this team is a team that has lost in the first round of the playoffs 4 years in a row. And, to a greater or lesser extent, he needs to shake up the core a little bit. Now, he doesn't want to destroy it, but he also wants to sort of have them not sort of resting on their laurels. I mean, you had to move a guy like an Oshie or a Backus or somebody of that group to sort of get things moving. You're moving in guys like Tarasenko and Laterra and Jaden Schwartz, so you had to move Oshie. You had to clear the cap space for Tarasenko, but you couldn't just stand pat with that team that has not had success. I agree. I think they probably had to move Oshie because maybe there wasn't a gelling there between Hitchcock and him. But I think more than that, it's the fact that they just needed to shake up that group, and I think that's what was possibly behind the Shattenkirk talk too, Ak.
Yeah, and I think the Shattenkirk talk ended. The Shattenkirk talk ended the second Oshie was dealt, essentially, meaning that maybe they said, okay, maybe the Shattenkirk talk was more about the fact that if we can't move Oshie, we have to move Shattenkirk. And it really felt like that went away immediately. Shattenkirk being way more valuable than Oshie, obviously, because he's a defenseman and because he's younger. But I don't know. I just can't imagine, looking at the other teams that could have used T.J. Oshie, like Montreal, Philadelphia, Boston. I can't imagine that they couldn't have gotten more than this. I know Troy Brouwer is a halfway decent player, but I'm talking to some of my friends at Washington. They say, well, he's gotten kind of weak along the boards. He doesn't fight as hard along the boards. That's not going to work in the Hitchcock world. I don't know. There's certain things there. I just felt like they were going to get more for him. Maybe his persona goes ahead of him a little bit, but
well, I think one thing here is that we can pretty much write off any chance of Joel Ward going back to Washington, and I think you can also write them off in terms of them getting Patrick Sharp. I think now that they got Oshie and now that they signed Justin Williams, they're probably done in terms of signing guys who are playing their top 9, and Ward and Sharp will have to go someplace else.
Yeah. And I mean, Justin Williams. When you look at one thing, I will say, and I kind of want your opinion on this, Ty. The Metropolitan Division is just loading up. I mean, the Metro Division is really, when you think about it, you have the Rangers last year. They won the President's Trophy, so they're still a good team. You can't. I mean, a lot of people are acting like the Rangers have fallen off the planet, and they went to the conference finals. They won the President's Trophy. They were one game away from the Stanley Cup, right?
Yeah.
So, there's that. The Capitals got Justin Williams and T.J. Oshie. The Penguins went out and they got Phil Kessel. The Blue Jackets got Brendan Saad. The Flyers got, rid of some players. Got, got a good draft pick in Provorov who might be able to step right in and have young players coming. They're getting better. The Islanders, are already getting better. And the Devils are obviously the team that's going to have the most trouble. Well, and the Hurricanes. But this is a tough division.
Yeah, and you look at these teams, they're adding some of that Western Conference nastiness. Between Williams, Saad, Oshie, these guys aren't overly imposing sort of players, but they know how to get the job done. And I think that last year's the new playoff bracket really sets the stage for these Metro teams, and they realize that they have to get heavier, and they have to get that, but along with some skill and some guys that can put the puck in the back of the net, because this division, the goaltenders, they're no slouches either. Between Bobrovsky, Lundqvist, Holtby, Halak, even Corey Schneider. I know the Devils are rebuilding, but he's in this league. So I look at this, and you look at that division, and that's going to be a total war. And you need teams, and you need players that have depth. You can't have one line. So when you acquire a guy like Williams or Oshie or Brandon Saad, I mean, you can plug and play these guys on the top line, the second line, in some cases even their third lines. So this makes all these teams better, and I agree with you. This is a superpower of an NHL division now.
Yeah, I mean, are they the best division in hockey now? I mean, the Central Division last year was the best division in hockey. I think it's pretty easy to say. The Pacific Division has also gotten better. Mike?
They may be the best division, but they may have two of the 4 or 5 worst teams in the division, because Carolina, really hasn't made any kind of dramatic improvements, and I think the Devils are going to battle Arizona and Toronto for the top pick in the draft. So, I mean, I think that the top 6 in the Metro division is going to be excellent. I think the Atlantic division is pretty. Pretty good. I mean, Florida is up and coming. Buffalo is on a positive track. Ottawa is going to try to repeat what they did last year. I mean, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to, but the top 4 in that division are, now Boston has slid back a little bit, but I still think they're going to be a contender for potentially an 8th spot in the playoffs.
But if you put those two divisions together, who's the best team? Like, I mean, I think you're easily going to get. I mean, the best team who is the best team in those two?
Into I think Tampa is.
All right, so Tampa is, right? So you get Tampa as the best. But after that, I think you've got maybe 3 or 4 Metro Division teams before you get anywhere. I mean, I do know what you mean about Ottawa. And Boston is always there.
Montreal hasn't made their moves yet, so I'm a little hesitant to say Montreal is not going to be in that second level. But I mean, right now, the Rangers, Pittsburgh, Washington are all teams you could say are going to be in that second level.
And Columbus, I think Columbus is there too.
Columbus is there too. Maybe Detroit. I mean, with the addition of Mike Green, now the thing is they're losing Babcock, and Blashill is coming in as the coach. But I mean, there's a second level of maybe 6 or 7 teams. I think Montreal will be in that, depending on what Mark Bergevin does in terms of adding a player or two.
Yeah. And how would you rank it, Ty? If you put those two divisions together, I guess you're just looking at the Eastern Conference. But who do you think how many teams do you see of the Metro in the top 5 or 6 there?
I would say Tampa's still number 1. Washington's 2 for me right now. I know Mike Green's a big loss, but I love their depth. Then Rangers 3 and 4, sort of interchangeable, I feel. And then 5, I mean, that's a wild card. I would leave older with their goaltending situation. I still think they're an elite team. I'd put them number 5 for me.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that. I mean, I think the Eastern Conference continues to gain on the Western Conference for sure, and I think that we saw that in this. It feels like over this UFA day and even over the draft. I mean, with the exception, of course, of Connor McDavid, I think the East has gotten better than the West. It feels like right now.
Well, it also feels like, I mean, most of the rumors regarding Sharp have been to Eastern Conference teams.
Correct.
I think that's the right now these teams don't want to face the players that are on their team that they can't fit in on their salary cap. For example, the LA situation with Martin Jones. They didn't want Martin Jones to play in their own division, so they traded him to Boston, and then Boston traded him back into the Pacific Division to San Jose. Teams, if they have the option of trading players who they think are still capable of being effective, want to trade them to the other conference because they'll only face them a couple times a year, and they definitely don't want to trade them inside their own division because they don't want to face them 4 or 5 times a year and in the playoffs. That's what makes the Kessel deal a little unusual because the Leafs are going to play Pittsburgh 3 times a year, and you're going to see Kessel a lot over the next few years. So I think the East is getting stronger, and I think the trend will continue. I think Sharp will end up getting traded to the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I think Sharp's either he's obviously heading to the Islanders or the Canadiens. It seems at this point, those are the two teams that haven't made their move. Both want him. If like we talked about, there's still that possibility that Oposo's moved out. And you know what? I was talking to somebody today about this. It feels as if, my term lead chucked. I mean, I feel Oshie was lead chucked. And perhaps you could also, and Brendan Saad was lead chucked. So we're seeing more and more, and the term lead chuck, for those who aren't familiar with it, is last year Leddy and Boychuk both being moved out not because they were bad players, but because they had to be moved because of salary cap purposes. Right. And it feels as if lead chucking has brought back the trade to the NHL, like the actual trade, which we had lost for years. We just thought we didn't see any trades. I mean, there was a period of time when I first started 10 or so years ago where we saw lots of trades still, but then the trades were gone. For years, we saw very, very few. And over the last, over the last 2 years now, we've seen some really significant trades, which is exciting for obviously for us at Hockey Buzz. We love that, but in general, it's kind of, we really are seeing it. And moving forward now, you're looking at other players. Shattenkirk could be lead chucked, and I think Dougie Hamilton was lead chucked, for example. I mean, there's so many of these players now. And now the key is to try to look at who's next. Like, who are the lead chuck candidates? That's my plug for tomorrow, actually, and it's going to be. I came up with some interesting ones for next year. Guys that could actually be moved out, not because they're bad players, but because the salary cap, could actually, go down the next year again. They're saying now not because the NHL's not doing well, but just because the economy in Canada is suffering.
Well, the funny thing is that the Leddy and Boychuk situations. They both had 1 year left on their contracts. They both there was a price point. There was certainty in the price point with both those players. So the Islanders could fit them in. Boston and Chicago couldn't, and that's why the deals were made. All of a sudden, the lead chuck thing is going to the next step. Now it's going to RFAs, and now it's going to players with 2 years left on their deals, like Oshie.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's sort of. I mean, I don't think that all these moves that were made because of offer sheet situations.
No, I don't buy that. I think that's what teams are using as an excuse. I think Ty brought that up yesterday. It's like, no one has still offer sheeted anybody to have this great fear of offer sheets all the time.
Right.
Yeah, I mean.
Ty?
I don't. Yeah, they don't exist in my opinion. I mean, they exist, but it's a threat that forces a trade more than anything else we've learned. That's just what gets a trade going for a lot of these teams is that, oh, we hear an offshoot's coming in, so we better move it while we can.
Yeah. I mean, well, the thing is that for a few years now, the offer sheet has been used as more of a threat, more of an impetus to get a deal done. Like in the Kessel situation with Toronto and Boston. I mean, Brian Burke had no intention of signing Phil Kessel to an offer sheet. That was anathema to him because, he had that done to him when he was in Anaheim, and Edmonton and Kevin Lowe did it with Dustin Penner. So he wasn't going to do it. He deemed it to be ungentlemanly to sign Phil Kessel to an offer sheet. Instead, he traded him, and he actually traded. I think he gave up a little less than what he would have given up in terms of compensation if it would have been an offer sheet. But that the point is that he gave up assets that I think in retrospect were bad. But we've had Shea Weber, we've had Ryan Kessler, over the last few years, but nothing of major consequence. And I just think that it's now not. They should take it out of the CBA because nobody's ever going to use it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the offer sheet's flawed in general. There's a couple things that are very flawed about the CBA. I'm one of those believers who doesn't think a salary cap can exist in a league that police reported ahead. There's my Waze. Sorry, that's fuzz. Get out of here, man. Okay, so I think that
if you're carrying that, take a boost. Run for it.
Oh, we have some in the back. Yeah, we do actually. Bring it. Oh, look out.
They're from the state troopers.
I know, we brought it for the picnic. Take a boost, but future sterility doesn't matter. Okay,
Bouncing
so,
along the walls. Okay.
yeah. Um, but I was bringing up another topic for a second. The city of Glendale had a public opinion poll yesterday, and 58% said that they should try to get out of the deal with the Coyotes. Um, you know, so of people they interviewed, 81% said they were aware of the situation, and then the people who were aware of the situation, 58% said they should get out of the deal with the Coyotes.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's a death knell to what's going on in Glendale, but I mean, right now it seems that this court case, that the whole situation with the lease, I think that right now it's essentially to be able to have a place to play for a year while it's being adjudicated, and then once that decision is made, if it's upheld the lease or if they can break it, this is just a delay tactic to find a landing spot for this team, whether it be in downtown Phoenix with the Phoenix Suns as a stopgap until they can build another building, or buying the NHL another year until they can move it to someplace like Vegas. Now, I don't know if you saw the report, and that was shot down like within seconds by the NHL a couple days ago, but the New York Post reported that they were planning to move the team to Vegas, and I think the report said it was going to be next year, and Bill Daley came out with a strong denial within, I think, about 30 seconds. So
yeah, he was really calling that article completely faulty.
But
So,
I mean, I just don't know how long how long we have with this situation. It just keeps going. It never ends, and it just seems like, in spite of the fact that Gary Bettman is really strong about keeping that team in Glendale, I have a feeling that the reason he's really strong about that is because they want the league to be able to get $500 million in expansion money, and you can't justify $500 million in expansion money when you're selling a team out from Arizona to another place for less than $500 million.
yeah, think about it. That's exactly right. And they wanted the owners. That's why they pushed it. That's why they pushed the expansion thing so quickly. That's why the window, which I believe opens on Monday,
Yep.
to apply. So I'm going to work on my application over the weekend to buy an expansion team. But I think on Monday we have to send it in. I got, I don't know, $2,000 or $3,000. We're going to need about $500 million. So if anyone else has, we want to start a Kickstarter, maybe I was thinking. Maybe we could do that way. The owners want to share the $500 million for each expansion team, and they don't want $400 million to go to the current Phoenix owners when they move that team someplace else. Right. And that's the bottom line. So they're not going to do anything with Phoenix until these expansion teams have paid their money, and then I think they'll let Phoenix go somewhere. I really do. I hope not. I mean, because I'm probably by that point figure out that they're not called Phoenix anymore. But because I'm going to call them Phoenix for the rest of my life. But they are the Arizona Coyotes now. But yeah, I think that eventually they're going to move. I mean, I really feel as if I've talked to more people about expansion. It really seems like it's going to be Vegas and Quebec. That's really where it seems like it's going. And then where Arizona goes is anybody's guess. It could be Seattle. I don't think it's going to be Kansas City. I would say the best bets are Seattle and Markham up in Ontario.
Well, again, I had an interview that I'll post on my blog later today with Bill Waters, former assistant GM of the Leafs, that said that there's a lot of momentum behind the potential of a Markham expansion team, but they still haven't broken ground on it. So, I mean, if they were going to move a team to Toronto, it would probably have to go into the Air Canada Centre for a year or two while they're building the building, and I don't know whether that's feasible unless there's the split between Bell and Rogers, where one of them has a stake in that expansion franchise. So, I'm skeptical about the second team in Toronto, at least in this short window. I think both expansion teams are going to go west.
Yeah. Oh, we're joined by Kevin Allen. Hey, Kev.
Hey, how are you? I'm confused. I thought we were going at 2.
I did, and then I sent you several messages saying we're going to go at 1:30, because what happened was we're got on the way to the shore. We realized traffic was so terrible that I wasn't going to get there till 3, and then if I did a podcast, I was going to be unable to hang out with the family until 4:30, so we figured we would do it while driving, so that's what we're doing.
Alrighty, sounds good.
We're the whole family here. So no, but thanks.
Mobile Buzzcast, Kevin.
Yes, thanks for jumping in.
Yeah.
I wanted your while we have you real quick before we go on to other stuff. I wanted your opinion on the Oshie trade and
well, it's an interesting old style hockey trade for sure.
Yeah.
Brouwer is a pretty consistent goal scorer, but Oshie still has some potential. So, I'm not quite sure exactly what the Blues were trying to accomplish with this trade. They just want a different look. That's what Doug Armstrong said. So, but I like it. I like it from both. Both teams. Like Washington gets some potential, and the Blues get a guy who's more consistent, more even.
Yeah, I mean they do. I still think what is fascinating, and the other thing we talked about, I really want to discuss with you, is the whole idea that we actually are seeing trades again. The trade is back,
Yeah, and it's really born out of necessity, simply because everybody's so tight on the salary cap that they really can't do so much. So and it's interesting because GMs always say they can't make trades. Well, when they're forced into it because they don't really have any wiggle room, they somehow find a way to get it done.
They do, and they really have. We've seen so many moves now, and more to come. And these are players that are getting lead chucked, which as my term is, because basically, like you say, it's out of necessity, and it's out of the fact that that there's going to be salary issues with some of them moving forward. And we could. Do you see any other players that are out there that this could happen to this year?
In terms of being traded?
Yeah, in terms of players, like the idea of lead chucked is the players who are going to be contracts are going to be too much, and teams are saying, well, we got to move them out before we have to deal with that, or because teams are using the excuse that they're being afraid of being offer sheeted. We've heard that too with Saad. We heard that with Hamilton.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I don't understand why anybody.
Right.
I just don't understand. To me that was kind of an excuse. Like whatever they had, if someone had offer sheeted them, they would have just signed them and traded them in a year.
I would think so.
Yeah, or kept the player. So yeah, I don't understand any of that. But let's see, younger players like that.
Yeah, I'm looking as we go here, and there's a few instances like. Well, the whole Mark Giordano situation, if he continues to ask for $9 million for 8 years, I think that's a situation that could decompensate, even though he's an extremely important aspect of the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, you can't give him $9 million, and there's no way that.
Yeah, there's no way there. I agree.
I mean, Anze Kopitar in L.A. You've got Barkov in Florida, who's a restricted free agent.
Yeah, I think that the other rumor while we're looking through that, Mike, the other rumor I heard today is the Flyers are talking to the Oilers, and the Flyers have essentially they still have a couple defense that they would like to move out, in Andrew McDonald and Mark Streit. They're kind of hard to move. They're tough contracts to move. They're very different situations. I am a bigger Andrew McDonald fan than most people are, and I'm less of a Mark Streit fan than most people are. But I think both are serviceable players. The Flyers, they have them. Been going to rookie camp. They've got an incredible crop of rookie defensemen coming in. So that's something I don't think Edmonton's completely done. I get the impression, we're talking to a couple people, that Edmonton's got one more big move to make. You heard anything about this guy or anything?
Well, I know Edmonton's already got too many defensemen now, so I don't see that as a good fit unless that's possible they have other deals worked out because their defense, as we all know, that they had last season. So the leftover guys are not guys that they're married to, but they weren't
exactly tearing it up.
Well, they'd like to be divorced to, I guess is what.
Yes, I think it's a way better way of putting it.
Yeah. So.
Well, I heard the theory that I mean they have Nikita Nikitin, who they would have liked to have potentially bought out, but they not knowing they were going to get Sekera as a free agent.
Right.
And now they may go to club elected arbitration with one of their players simply to open up the second buyout window that they can buy out Nikitin, and I really think it's August. That's right before the training camps happen. So they may eventually buy out Nikitin. I think he's making over $4 million for a couple of years because I think right now they have so many defensemen that might be the only way out other than...
Yeah, I mean, Nikitin is a strange contract. And can we all just right now say that Nikita Nikitin sounds more like a supermodel than a fourth-line defenseman? Nikita Nikitin is like a heck of a... that sounds like a really leggy supermodel to me. I'm just throwing it out there. Nikita Nikitin is a great name for a hockey player.
Well, I think he's also an indication of just because someone is a free agent doesn't make him desirable.
Right.
I mean, that's what we saw. I mean, it does seem like there was a time period right through last season where just the fact that a guy was as an unrestricted free agent just made him attractive, and that just wasn't true. And this season, it seems like GMs sort of drew a line in the sand and say, okay, these are the available guys. Now, which of them actually do we want, and how much are we willing to pay?
Ack, I'll give you two candidates for the lead chuck, as you say. One is an RFA this year in Derek Stepan. The other one is an RFA next year in Chris Kreider. I mean, they don't have the room. I think that if they move either one of those, that they severely diminish their chances of winning, getting out of the Eastern Conference and winning a Stanley Cup. And they are a short-term team, but I don't know how they sign both of them or one of them to a long-term deal unless they can find a home for Rick Nash or move some money out.
Especially Stepan, who went through a pretty, not salacious, but tough negotiation the first time around, right? So that's, I think Derek. I've heard Derek Stepan's name mentioned before, this in the past couple of days, and I think that you're right. He is a possibility there. But the Rangers, they definitely, I mean, they've now decided that they're going to keep Keith Yandel. That's going to stay. They're going to keep him, and by keeping him, they put themselves into a certain bind for sure. It's a tough one. I mean, they become very defensive. They're hoping Emerson Edom turns out to be the player he can be. I really like Emerson Edom, but we'll see. But there's a lot there. I agree. There's a funny thing someone sent me today. I wanted to show you this, guys. The Oilers have signed Connor McDavid for what it's worth. Not that we didn't think that would ever not happen. But someone attempted to replicate the Kessel trade on NHL 15. On EA NHL 15, they tried to attempt. They threw the Kessel trade. So for those of you who don't play video games, or those who do even, the way it works in NHL 15 is you put a trade together and it's like sent to this computer, and the computer determines whether or not this trade makes any sense, like that this trade would be acceptable by either team. So they were the Penguins, and they offered up the exact same pieces to the Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs got back to them with this. The Toronto Maple Leafs have this great thing called a trade block on their team. Based on what you were asking us to cough up, it seems you haven't checked out the fact that we have this trade block on. So you better be willing to give us something outstanding. I don't see that, though. You've done all the right things apparently in your mind, but the value you are sending us isn't sufficient at all.
That's funny.
That's the computer version of.
Well, I could have written that same message. I mean, they didn't get enough. There's no question about that. I've heard Mike's position on that, just that they had to trade him, and that there's some truth to that. But I think had they remained patient, and I know patience was not what Mike was all about on this deal, but had they remained patient, they could have gotten more, I think.
Yeah, the prospect of bringing Phil Kessel to training camp in September had disaster written on it. After 2 months of talking about pain and rebuild and change and bringing back the core as it was last year. let's just say that the starting out with Babcock and Shanahan and starting out with a new direction and having those guys still, I think would have been a media circus. And I like I said, I will grant you, they did not get top value for him. They did get value. They did get a couple prospects. I think Kapanen in a few years could be an effective NHL player. Harrington apparently can be a 5 or 6 defenseman.
Yeah.
That's not and they got a draft pick. That's not the point. The point was they had to move on from Phil Kessel. They had to get out from under that contract. And the quality of Phil Kessel as a player would have hindered their ability in the next 2 or 3 years to bottom out and to get top draft picks, because Kessel will score. He'll come back and he'll score 30, 35 goals. He'll score 40 or 45 in Pittsburgh. Him not being a good player is not a part of this deal. It's moving on and rebuilding, and that's the direction the Leafs are going right now.
But I want to take one step back on the Ranger situation, because I see it the exact opposite. Like, I just can't see. They have to sign Stepan. He's their number one center. Like, where are they going? And if they, there's like no option there, for them, in my opinion. They gotta, they got to come back next season and play, and you got to get him signed. Like, that's a priority. And I know it was messy last time around, but I think Kreider would be the guy. I mean, it's easier to find another winger than it is to find another center. Although Kreider has a lot of potential. I mean, a big guy who can skate and shoot. Hasn't quite been as good as they had hoped he would be, but. He's still an effective player. So I think they've sort of figured out what they're going to do there. I mean, I think the Hagelin trade was part of that. They didn't really need to do too much to fit it all in. They won't have any maneuverability, but, most of the top teams don't, including Ty's team in Boston, although they're better now.
And Ty, are they done?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you still have to look at this defense. And Adam McQuaid, like we talked about, is in their top 4. They're not going to go anywhere with that being the case. So I think there's another shoe to drop. I think they would like to add a defenseman like Christian Ehrhoff or Johnny Oduya or even Cody Franzen. It just comes back down to the price. Right now they're operating with just under $9 million. They have to re-sign Connolly and Hayes, and maybe they bring in another backup goaltender option, just to fight for ice time with Jeremy Smith. But so they have some money to spend. It's just a matter of how long do you want to commit, to a player like Oduya or Franzen. So that's why I think a guy like Ehrhoff, who's been willing to take these 1 or 2 year deals, might be their guy. And there is familiarity there with German players. The Bruins have always sort of had a German connection with Marco Sturm, and now Dennis Seidenberg's on their team now. So maybe they can lure Ehrhoff in with that sort of that history and their dealings with German talents before.
And I'm pretty sure that Ehrhoff and Seidenberg have been a defensive pairing when Germany plays internationally. So there might be a willingness there for Ehrhoff if they offer him a 2-year deal. Since
I just don't know if he's healthy at all. Like, I've talked to people who really wondered, they really questioned that move. I mean, that's the big thing. I think he would have been gone by now if he was healthy, because he's a better player than Oduya. I believe the reason Oduya hasn't signed is because he still is holding out hope that then he could go back to Chicago.
I agree with you. I just wrote that this morning, that I can't figure out any other reason why he wouldn't be signed, as if someone has said, let us play with a little bit the side deal now, can we sort of figure it out? So
he might be waiting for the Sharp deal to happen. If they
can move Sharp, then they can keep him probably, And I think they'll move Sharp.
By the way, Mike, cover your ears, because I'm going to talk about tenants for 30 seconds here. But Serena Williams is about to be upset in Wimbledon here, it looks like.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
A young, unseeded woman named Watson from Great Britain is 4-4, and she's up now, trying to break her. So
my Canadian followers will not be pleased when I say this, but as somebody who will stay attuned to what's going on in the news, obviously with the Leafs, you hear the name of Milos Raonic, who's the Canadian male tennis star who's like in the top 10, and every update it's a Milos Raonic update. It's always, he's the first name, not the Leafs, not the Blue Jays, it's Milos Raonic. So whenever he gets eliminated, which he did today in Wimbledon, I celebrate just a little bit because we don't have to hear Milos Raonic's name for 2 weeks.
Oh, man.
Can I ask you one question, Mike? Would you have preferred to live in the 1950s?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm just wondering because
I'm curious about that too. That makes sense. Victor Hedman, according to the Swedish article that I found, has won the Golden Puck Award, which is to the Hockey Player of the Year, which is translated loosely from the translation I have as the greatest puck in the land, which I don't think is a good translation. But that's what it says when I tried to translate this article.
As long as you got the spelling right.
Yeah, Victor Hedman's the greatest puck in the land. But yeah, the Golden Puck Award goes to the best Swedish professional hockey player of the year. As found out by Swedes, I guess.
Who won that?
Victor Hedman.
Okay, yeah, that's a good choice.
In the land.
I don't think you could argue with that. I mean,
no. I mean, he's probably going to be the greatest puck in the land for many years to come because he's really. I mean, if there's a better Swede than him, you know, I mean, Philip Forsberg's is a great Swede too, but my gosh,
Erik Karlsson won the Norris.
Yeah.
Right. That's true too. Yeah. So there's a lot of great pucks in Sweden.
Hedman's the biggest puck in the land.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's change this topic, can we? Jonathan Toews has a beer named after him. Someone told me that their bar named a beer after him. I thought that was pretty cool. And doesn't sound anything like a publicity stunt or anything like that. We can name the drink a toast after someone too if you like to.
I'm waiting for the NHL draft to be sponsored by Miller Genuine Draft because then it's a draft.
Oh, a draft sponsoring a draft.
I like that.
That's very meta. Yeah. So, by the way, Kevin, just before I get you, in case I get cut off, I didn't get your friend's message, so tell him to call me again because I'm now in Margate officially.
Yeah, they're there right now, and you know he is.
Yeah, I gotta get, or maybe email me his phone number. I'll call him.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know we're almost here, and the show is just about done, which is pretty good. So on a quick note, guys, we are going most podcasts, okay? All the finer podcasts in the land are ending today. You know, apparently the Puck Daddy does one, and you know other people do them. And
daily hockey radio shows.
And XM Radio is going to go to replays of the 1994 quarterfinals. So that's going to be fun to listen to. So, but
Mike would prefer they do the 1954 Stanley Cup final.
That would be good.
No, 51. At least the Leafs won the cup that year.
Every game the New Jersey Devils played in 1970. No, they weren't around that. All right. So, but no, the XM's definitely looking for content. But we here at Hockey Buzz, we don't believe hockey ends in the summer. So we'll be doing this every day, Monday through Friday still, you know, for the most part. And somebody will be here. But we're going to keep talking. So we'll be here next week. So when there's no one else talking hockey, we'll be talking.
Uh-oh. He said we were going to reach a dead zone here. And I think we reached a dead zone just as he was preparing to end the show. So, look, while we're waiting for him to come back and end the show...
Sorry, it's hard to focus. There's a lot going on here. Sorry.
Okay. There you go.
My ADD is not working very well here. So, Andre Kostitsyn, you know, possibly coming back.
Yeah, there was a report, Kevin, that a number of KHLers are exploring the return to North America, and the report came out about Andre Kostitsyn, who, you know, was with Montreal, and then that infamous Nashville jaunt that he had with Radulov. I mean, I know that there was a report in the last couple of days that the NHL and the KHL didn't come to a transfer agreement, so it's going to be staying the way it has been the last few years. I mean, do you think that there's going to be a great influx of KHLers over the next couple seasons?
I do. You know, that's the word I've sort of gotten from agents and stuff. Just the value of the ruble with the way it's gone. You know, the value of the contracts over there is just not as lucrative as it once was. So a lot of players are looking to get back and getting over there. I mean, there was a real attraction. Like, people have asked me, like, why would they not want to play in the best league? Well, it's just lifestyle. I mean, all your friends are over there. It's treated, and this is the part that I think fans don't understand. Even though the caliber of competition isn't the same, it's treated by the media just like the NHL. In fact, it might be bigger because it's a national game over there. So, there's a lot of attention there. There's a lot of notoriety you get from playing there. You're in your home country. They don't play as many games. It starts earlier. It ends earlier. So there's a lot of advantages. But now the money isn't as attractive. So I do see players that are going to come back.
And
it's really only soccer and hockey over there, right? I mean, that's what I've been told. Soccer's big, hockey's big. That's about it.
yeah,
There's 2 giant stadiums that have soccer teams for 2 soccer teams in Moscow. I've read the other day that they're just enormous stadiums.
I believe
the big thing is going to be if Kovalchuk ever comes over. That's the big thing. I mean, everyone's waiting on that.
Yeah.
Well, I
think it's going to happen. I think Kovalchuk will return to the NHL. I really think Kovalchuk will return to the NHL.
So do I.
That's inevitable, and I think it's how they handle it will be really interesting. How it's handled, that will be the fun part. Like, will New Jersey get anything? Will New Jersey get any? Will they have any to say at all in this situation? For the player that they, kind of illegally took way back when, sort of at the cap, and then they retired early. The whole Kovalchuk signing has always been just insane, and boy, I look forward to months and months of Kovalchuk rumors again. That's just been too long. There was a while that Phil Kessel he did his best to trump it this year, but he didn't even do as well. The Kovalchuk stuff went on for a long time, longer than the Phil Kessel stuff even. But so before we go, also Sunday, guys, don't forget women's soccer. I know we talked about it before, but I know that Mike's not a fan of it, but they're going for the World Cup gold medal on Sunday night, so it's gonna be fun. U.S. team, most of the Canadian team got in there. It was a tough battle for them. It would have been fun to see the teams play each other, but we're just better than you guys in Canada, so it's just the bottom line. Just wanted to put that out there.
That's nice.
So,
piss off the highest.
Yeah, just tick off 70% of our viewers. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know. I love you, Kevin. But that's all the time we have, guys, for today. We'll be back on Monday. Thank you, Kevin. Thanks, Ty. Thanks, Mike. Ty, you did yeoman's work this week. You're gonna have something special in your stocking here.
I know, right?
For all the extra time you put in. We appreciate it.
Happy to help.
3 days in a row, and really appreciate it. Remember, guys, without the buzz, it is just hockey. Have a great holiday weekend, and in the States, of course, and we'll talk to you. Ending the show there. Okay, good. All right.
All right.
We did it.